What's up, beautiful people? Back for another week of NBA action. I'm joined, as usual, by the homie, Jordan Sharp. Exciting week of NBA weekend, excuse me, of NBA action, but now it feels like, opening week jitters are off. It feels like we're going to get into the full swing of things. Jordan, how was your weekend?
It was good. Some of the people who watch the show probably know I don't really like bet a lot of basketball on Saturdays, but Sunday we got a little bit back that we lost on Friday. If you watched that, it was a terrible showing. I went 1-3 on Friday for Friday's picks, and but got a little bit back last night. Had the under in the first half of the Knicks and Orlando Magic game. Shout out to the Orlando Magic for winning that game. We're going to talk a little bit about that today because they play later as well on the back-to-back, but they got the win, and also, if you haven't been paying attention, John Morant is amazing. I know I am 100% biased as a fellow alum of Murray State University, but God, if it wasn't for that missed free throw last night at the end of that game, he would be everybody would be talking about him if they would have pushed that to overtime and potentially came out of the win. But you know what? I tweeted this last night. I don't think Ja, on a moment like that in Staples Center where you put up 40 and you ended up losing because you missed the third of 3 free throws to try to push it to overtime, I don't think he's ever going to forget that. And in the long run, that may actually be a good thing for him and the Grizzlies in his career. So sucks the way that one ended because that was definitely the game of the night, and it ended up living up to it. So didn't make any money off of it, but as I told you, I was traveling a lot yesterday, so I didn't really get a ton of time to make a lot of picks, but ended up winning that one yesterday, so felt good. Try to compound that with a couple more today.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, especially on opening week. I bet the NFL so heavy that my Sundays are just consumed by football. And then after the games are done, I watch the condensed version of the game. So I didn't make too many plays this weekend either. While NBA is still young, and I'm going to give you one specific reason: sample size. There's not a big enough sample size for me to make any statements about any team. Nothing is fact right now. Everything is just form. This is what they're playing like right now. Talk to me in 2 weeks, and it could be flipped on its head. So with that in mind, let's go over today's slate and try to get as many games as we can and give the people what they want, which is information and insight. So whenever y'all are ready, let's get to the first game. All right, we got a pretty interesting one here with the Milwaukee Bucks headed to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Pacers have reason to be optimistic. New coach, some young blood in Duarte looking good. I am not a believer in the Miles Turner Sabonis combo, but with a veteran coach like Rick Carlisle, he seems to be making it work. He seems to have Miles Turner in a space where he's comfortable. Still jacks up way too many of those rainbow threes for my liking. But hey, if the coach is giving him the green light, then why not? On the flip side, though, which is why I'm actually interested to hear your take, Jordan, Milwaukee's got a bunch of injury concerns, especially Drew Holiday and now Brook Lopez. Listen, obviously, Giannis is the reigning defensive player of the year, but Brook Lopez is a big part not only of their interior defense, but also their floor spacing with his ability to take big men out of the key and shoot threes. So just interested to see. I have nothing on this game. Interested to see what you have to say about it, Jordan.
I just a lean right now for a few reasons. Firstly, because like I said, I don't want to disrespect Giannis and the Bucks just yet, despite the fact they're going to be missing 2 starters tonight. Drew Holiday doubtful. Brook Lopez already ruled out. And then, of course, Indiana coming off a huge win on Saturday. I mean, the way they started their season, a lot other than Chris Duarte, who people are crazy about right now, there was some concerns, obviously. Or like you said, early in the year, sample size is too small. You really don't want to get overly concerned about a couple of bad losses in a row. And they completely righted the ship on Saturday against Miami. I think a lot of that had to do with it being the home opener. I mean, the crowd is going to be jacked now that they're fully back at the newly dubbed Gainbridge Fieldhouse in downtown Indianapolis. And for me, I'm close to taking the points. But like I said, there's two things really here that are keeping me from kind of taking the points here. One is I don't want to disrespect Giannis and Middleton. And secondly, I still need to see two things that they improved upon a lot on Saturday, but I think tonight's going to be another big test of that. If you're without Brook Lopez and they're going to be playing, Mamu a lot at center for the Bucks here, can the Pacers improve on that defensive rebounding? Because it was literally their entirety of their Achilles heel last year. And if you remember, I think you and I on the former iteration of the show talked a lot about this last year. The Pacers were actually, I think, a better road team last year than they were a home team. For whatever reason, that the coaching thing obviously had a lot to do with it. They don't have that excuse anymore. And I think even though it is a Monday night, you have the defending champs coming into town. This is the type of game that if it was any other team other than like the Bucks, the Lakers, or maybe the Nets, this would be a dead crowd tonight. I don't think it's going to be that way here at the Fieldhouse tonight. And I do think that there's some momentum left over from Saturday for this team. I do think lean Pacers here at 2, but I also was thinking about this before I came on the show. If this was 1 point, I'd probably feel the other way. I'd probably feel like the Bucks may have some value. If it was 3 points, I would have already taken the points by now. That kind of tells me the line's probably pretty close to where it should be. I think that's at least one of the main reasons I'm just staying away from this one entirely. Going to keep it at a lean Pacers here, but almost never. This is going to be one of those opportunities, but almost never miss up a home dog opportunity. We'll talk about that here again in just a second, but for now, I'm laying off this one.
Yeah. So me personally, and you know this about me, Jordan. I'm one of those people. You can get a lot of information from the box score, but you got to watch games. I spent all of Saturday trying to watch as many games as possible. I saw the Pacers game against Charlotte in full. I watched the game against was it the Wizards, I think, in full. Their defense concerns me. Now yes. they turned that around against Miami. They only held Miami to 91 points, but again, we know that Miami has this tendency to go. They can just go ice cold against literally any team. Miami can just not score. Like Miami has these droughts. If you go back and look last season, they have these runs where they'll go like 2, 3, 4 games in a row and not even score 100 points. So holding Miami to 91 points is encouraging because you just allowed Washington to score 134, and you allowed Charlotte to score like what, $123 in a game you were up like 20-something points and really should have won. I'm not sure I know who the Pacers are yet. The best version of them, their offense looks pretty fluid. They got a lot of guys that can put the ball in the basket. Domantas Sabonis looks like he's in all-star form. Malcolm Brogdon, looks like his usual self. So everything looks good. But when you tell me that your defense is shaky in 2 out of 3 games and then your next opponent is the Bucks, again, because of the injuries, I lean Pacers, but not enough to put my money on it. So it's a pass for me for now. Jordan gave you his reasons, which are extremely valid. And in case you guys don't know, Jordan is in Indiana, so he's got some information that the rest of us might not be privy to because, when you watch local papers, watch local news, read the local papers. I'm dating myself by talking about the newspaper. Who the hell reads a newspaper? But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I read it online still, but I'm not anymore.
Right. But you're in that network, right? You're just like here. I'm in Canada right now. Raptors news is they're not talking about the Lakers before they talk about the Raptors, right? So just make sure you always pay attention to Jordan's insights on the Pacers because he's definitely got info that's useful to you cashing more often than not. But now that we've been through that game, let's jump over to the Celtics versus the Hornets, which is a game I do have a look on. I personally have Hornets on the money line, and a lot of it has to do with what I just said. I spend my weekends and my nights, unfortunately, watching games and trying to educate myself as to, okay, well, who are these people? What do they do? How are they winning? Why are they winning? The Hornets look like they like playing with each other. The Hornets look like their guys feel comfortable in their roles. I think last season, I'm not sure you could say everyone was comfortable in their specific role. Like they knew exactly what they had to do. This year, LaMelo Ball is the guy. but Gordon Hayward is 1B. If LaMelo's 1A, Gordon's not number 2. He's like 1B because he's not only a scorer, but he helps them in the playmaking department as well. Then you've got Kelly Oubre, a guy who takes pride in defense, a guy who's going to bring that energy and intensity every night. Even though he's not the greatest player in the world, I've already said something that you can't count on more than half the league, which is energy and intensity every single night. So Oubre's brought another dimension. Miles Bridges kind of seemed like, Miles Bridges coming out of high school and going to Michigan State was one of the top ranked players in his class. And usually what that means is that you stay like 1 year and you go. Miles Bridges was kind of the exception to the rule. He needed to get his body right. He needed to work on certain aspects of his game. That's why when he came in, he was kind of like a tweener. He is sort of a big man, but not big enough to be a big man. Now he seems to kind of figure things out. His jump shot's a little bit more reliable. I say all of that to say the Hornets have something. I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know if it's real yet. But right now, as of today, they have self-belief. They have scores. They played a little bit better defense. I wouldn't say they played great defense, but it's a little bit better than we've seen before. Whereas on the flip side with the Celtics, most of the things are new. You've got new pieces. You've got a new head coach. And you've got Jaylen Brown, who's not playing tonight due to an issue with his knee that's kind of been flaring up for him since like the All-Star break last year. Now, it's not a serious knee injury. If you kind of like read these NBA injury reports, which our boy Jordan always has the inside scoop on, you'll see that this is actually a pretty common NBA injury. A lot of guys get this like tendonitis in that part of their knee just from the amount of games they play and just the wear and tear. So he's going to be rested for now, but Jason Tatum is still kind of trying to figure things out right now. He's a little bit rusty. He had to carry the weight last night, which was a relatively easy game against Houston. But now you're in a back-to-back situation on the road without your second-best player, and you guys are coming in as road favorites. I think that, to me, this line's all wrong. It should be probably Hornets -2, 2.5, if it wasn't for the fact that the Celtics are such a public team. So I'm interested to hear Jordan's breakdown and analysis. But me personally, I think without Jaylen Brown, without showing a sense of what the Celtics are, because I don't really know what they are. I mean, in the first game, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum took 60 shots combined, and then he didn't play last night. So I don't know what they are right now. I kind of know what they want to be, but I don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. I have more of a strong feeling with Charlotte and what they are and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go, which is why I am taking Charlotte on the money line at -105. Jordan, your thoughts?
This was almost going to be my third pick of the day, and so I'm not surprised that you're on it because I think this is kind of one of those games where I think the public is looking at the Celtics and thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be easy. And then I think there's a lot of other people who I think the public is wising up on the Hornets. I don't want to make this like a completely like public versus Sharp kind of thing, but I still think they're being a little disrespected. And if you look at their metrics through 3 games, you're right. They've been pretty impressive. They're the 4th best offensive rating through 3 games. They're like 3rd in assist to turnover ratio. These are things that kind of plague young teams, and the Hornets are one of the younger teams in the entire NBA. And I'm going to, add something else to this. Yeah, their defense isn't great, but the pieces that they have added through this offseason have been basically the sole reason why their defense has gone from kind of basement in the league to now like kind of middle tier, maybe even top half in the league. LaMelo Ball is going to be, he's probably, I'm not going to say he is going to lead the league in steals, but he's probably going to lead the league in steals this year. You got Kelly Oubre, who one of his main roles is defensively. Miles Bridges is pretty athletic. Mason Plumlee is a huge upgrade defensively at center than what they've been dealing with over the last few years. And then you have, dare I say, just as much, if not more depth than the Boston Celtics tonight. So I'm a little, this is the one thing that's kind of keeping me away from making it official right now. I don't know if Jaylen Brown's been ruled out just yet because they haven't put out an injury report because they played yesterday. So I don't expect to see one probably until later this afternoon. But I am kind of weary of is Jaylen Brown just being kind of tempered a little bit and they just held him out because they played 2 nights in a row and he's going to end up being back tonight. If I get confirmation that he's out, though, I'm going to join you 100% on this because everything you said is correct. The Hornets are just as good as Celtics, if not better. They're taking a point and a half at home, whatever it is. and they have at least 4 or 5 guys that are going to be credible threats to give 20 points to the Celtics tonight. Like maybe even 5. 4 may be an understatement. This team we got to start looking at some of these teams differently. I think, like recency bias and using previous years as a judgment for this year, especially with a team like the Hornets, is going to get you in trouble, because this is now a borderline playoff team in the Eastern Conference, and I think they're going to be right there fighting for one of those play-in games, and they're proving right now why that's the case, and they could prove it again by going 4-0 tonight and winning at home here. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm close. I'm an injury report away from tailing you on this. Let's say that.
Yeah, listen, we'll move on because we've both given a pretty thorough explanation as to our feelings on this game. I'll just simply say that 2 things that you touched on. One, Kelly Oubre. Love that Kelly Oubre is in this game. Love that he's starting. Don't love that Rozier is missing out. But putting Kelly Oubre into the starting lineup means that he's gonna be on Jason Tatum, and nobody can stop Tatum. But since Tatum is kind of struggling already, he can bother him, because if there's one thing that Kelly Oubre has, is self-belief. He believes that he can guard anybody, and that's half the battle. Like, seriously, like,
yep.
Who's going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? So I like Kelly Oubre's approach. The second thing you mentioned does worry me, because I did say that in the first game of the season when, Jaylen Brown was questionable to play against New York, and I was like, yeah, but he hasn't been practicing. So since he hasn't been practicing, he's going to be rusty. Yeah, okay. And then he got 46 points on my ass. So I definitely will not make the mistake of underestimating Jaylen Brown. I think that he's going to miss out, but there's also a strong possibility that the Celtics are like, we don't need him to beat the Rockets. We'll have him play tonight. I just think that because it's been an injury that he's been complaining about since literally February, because I heard Danny Ainge talking about this last season. They don't want this to be, he's got to miss one, play 2. Like, just give him some rest, let him get back into shape. Not to say that you're punting any games, but I wouldn't rush him back in this situation. But we'll see how that plays out. Next up, we've got the Chicago Bulls heading north of the border to play the Toronto Raptors. Listen, I got the Bulls in this one for one specific reason. This Raptors small ball lineup, I hate it. I don't hate it because I'm a hater. I hate it because I've watched it. And the way the NBA is, listen, let me say this in a different way. The way basketball is played now, for you to say, I'm committed to small ball, you can fool other people. You're not fooling me. Everybody plays small ball, son. How many big men are there in the NBA? Like 4?
Like true big men, yeah.
There's legitimately 6 true big men in the NBA, and 3 of them are not even really that good. So everybody plays a version of small ball. I just mentioned Miles Turner. Miles Turner hasn't posted up in like 5 years, bro. Okay, so everybody plays a version of small ball. So when you look at the Raptors version of small ball, they're starting this guy Prince Achiuwa or whatever his name. Bro. No. I watched the Raptors game so far this season. To say they are offensively challenged is being very generous. I do not believe in their ability to put points on the board, and I don't believe in their ability to stop a lot of the Bulls players, namely Vooch, who has a ton of experience playing against the Raptors, being a former player with the Orlando Magic, same division as the Raptors, played them in several playoff series. I think Vooch goes to work against who name the Raptors so-called big men. Vooch is eating that guy's food all day, all night. Fred VanVleet versus Lonzo Ball. In case you haven't noticed, Lonzo Ball is one of the better defensive guards in the entire NBA.
He's the best ball defender for sure.
I mean, he's a problem. So I don't know if he's going to be matched up directly with VanVleet just because they might put him on someone like Anunoby. But again, you have DeMar DeRozan that can cover Anunoby. If you just look at like for like, the man for man, the Bulls are much more talented than the Raptors. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that just because they're more talented, they're going to win. But I think that the Raptors have, for the first time in probably like 7-8 years, they have an identity crisis. I don't know what the Raptors do on offense. I don't know what their basketball philosophy is. They still can play defense, though. Yes. I'll give them that. But here's the thing that made me take the Bulls. I've watched all of the Bulls games so far because I'm talking a lot of trash, but I don't want to run my mouth without doing my homework. And when I watch the Bulls games, this is what I see. A lot of easy baskets, a lot of layups, a lot of dunks, alley-oops. Now, I don't get fooled by the fancy stuff, but it's like a goddamn layup line. And Lonzo Ball, since he was a high school kid, he's been known as a player that pushes the pace and helps his team get easy baskets. He's finding his groove in Chicago, and the rest of the Bulls prefer to play that way. They're a bunch of young, athletic guys that like to play above the rim. I don't see how Toronto has anything for the Raptors unless Toronto gets insanely hot from three. What do you think, Jordan?
I'll be quick here because I don't have a play on this game for just a couple of reasons. And you mentioned one of them just right before you pushed it over here to me. And that's the Raptors defense. Despite the small ball lineup that you so love, they've been really successful defensively with it. Now, granted, it's not necessarily the small ball that's doing that. You just have some really good individual defenders, OG Anunoby obviously being one of them. And shout out to Precious Achiuwa and Kim Birch down low. They've been solid. I think the problem here for me is that while the Bulls at full health, I think could potentially give them a lot of trouble. Vucevic is officially questionable tonight with an illness. And that's another one of the reasons why I think kind of like wait on this, because if the Bulls don't have Vooch, they're going to have to play a pretty tough version of small ball as well. Tony Bradley's going to get a good chunk of minutes, but mostly it's going to be Alize Johnson probably playing center and them just running out three forwards or three guards and two forwards or three forwards and two guards the whole time, which is, going to play right into the hands of the Raptors here, potentially here. I think they've been so impressive defensively that I'm not ready. I want to wait and see if that kind of regresses to the mean a little bit for them, or if they can kind of keep that going. Because you're right, their offense has been atrocious. Like, if anything, I'm betting the under in this game. It's already the lowest total of the day. I think the first half is a little more appealing just because of how good defensively these two teams have been in the first half as well. It's only 103 points. It's also seeing it go up right now. So I have no idea what to think about this game at this point. I need to know Vucevic's status. I need to kind of know, and then if I know that, then I can kind of more accurately predict this total a little bit. But for me right now, it all kind of revolves around the Vuce man right now. If he doesn't play, if they're, and that's the other thing, if the Bulls are kind of like, we could beat these guys without him, it doesn't matter, and they're probably right. So there's so many things that could go wrong in here with the Bulls. I understand that why you and others like them tonight, and I certainly do as well. But I got to have a little more information, and I'm not quite ready to fade that Raptors defense playing at home.
Yeah, like I said, this play is as much about me fading the Raptors as it is about backing the Bulls. I think that the Bulls' ability to get out in transition when their offense isn't working and get themselves easy baskets is something that the Raptors absolutely do not do. The Raptors do not get easy baskets. The Raptors very much rely on three-point shooting, and the variance with that is just too much for me. It's not like if I start naming the Toronto Raptors roster, it'll be a while before I name a shooter other than Fred VanVleet. Like, they can make shots, but they're not shooters. They're just guys that can make shots. It's like Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart takes a bunch of threes. He's not a shooter. He's just a guy who can make some shots sometimes. Anyways, moving on. The Bulls are my pick for this game. Sorry to the Raptors. I will say, though, because you mentioned his name, shout out to Ken Birch. I think I've told you this before. He's from my hometown. He's my brother's next door neighbor. And he played on my nephew's high school basketball team. So shout out to him for sure. Happy to see him getting that money.
Yes.
I'll let you start off in the next game. Pelicans versus Wolves. I'm very interested to hear your opinions because I just watched the Wolves 2 games, and I got a lot of opinions on them, but not enough to bet on them yet because I'm not sure if what we're seeing is real. But I'd love to hear your opinion, though.
So I agree with you. I kind of feel the same way about the Wolves. I'm not quite sure that I know what we're seeing is real, but at the same time, you literally said at the top of the show, we don't know about that about all 30 teams. It's literally, there's nothing set in stone right now. So all we have right now is speculation. We are speculating on whether or not the 2% sample size that we've seen so far is going to carry over throughout the rest of this month, next month, the rest of the season. It doesn't matter. But this is more for me, I think, about a team that I have watched. I think almost all 3 of their games, definitely 2 of them. But the Pelicans just do not look good right now. They have a new coach. They're trying to figure things out. They don't have their best player outside of Brandon Ingram, and we've talked about this every time we talk about the Pelicans. They just don't have scoring right now outside of Ingram. And I know this is a home and home, and I know the Wolves just came back and it looked like New Orleans was probably going to win that game, and then Minnesota had a pretty strong fourth quarter and ended up winning by 7. But the one thing that I've been really impressed through 2 games, granted 2 games, very small sample size, gotta take that with a grain of salt. The Wolves defense is markedly improved. They have like 4 or 5 guys that can get right in your face and stop you. Anthony Edwards being one of those guys, and oh, by the way, he's going to give you 20 points every night too. And then you combine the bench. The bench is just all defenders right now. You got Prince, Naz Reid, Patrick Beverley, Beasley coming off the bench. All these guys are credible defenders. You go against a team that has a shorter bench in New Orleans, team that's missing a ton of offense in general. And the fact that the Wolves have been one of the better defenses so far, obviously the quality of opponent they played is not terribly good, and it's still not going to be that good. But that's why I'm banking on it tonight. I see that the Wolves have one of the better net ratings in the first half so far through 2 games. I'm speculating that's going to continue because New Orleans has one of the worst. And at 2.5-point favorites at home, I'll lay the points here with the Wolves in the first half. I'm just doing it against the value mainly because most of the lines are at 3. I got 2.5 at MGM minus 115, 5.5 for the full game. I think I'll lay off that, but give me the first half here. I think the Wolves are credible enough to be ahead 3 or more here at the first half. Defense is what's going to do it though, and if they lock down defensively, New Orleans does not have enough offense to keep up with them.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just be quick. What I was going to say was, after watching all these games, 2 things. One, the Pelicanos do not have enough offense. They just don't. And not until Zion comes back.
Yes.
Brandon Ingram looks like he's got to get out of there, man. He's way too talented to be wasting away there if they're not going to build something around him and Zion. But that remains to be seen. On the flip side, I'm going to say this, and I'll move on to the next game. If Anthony Edwards looks like a superstar. Anthony Edwards is like the most physically impressive rookie that I've seen, at least as a wing player. I can't even remember someone. This is a guy who plays above the rim, has a knockdown jumper. His attitude and his willingness to play hard just looks like it's there. He just looks like he's just gotten way better since last season. He's taken more shots than Karl Anthony Towns in the first 2 games. I like everything about his whole demeanor.
I'm here for that too, by the way.
Yeah. I love his whole demeanor. If this guy takes that next step, these guys will be in the playoffs next season. I'll just say that, because D'Angelo Russell, he goes about his business quietly, but he's just a pro ball player. He's going to get you 17, 6 and 6. Karl Anthony Towns is a mismatch usually on most nights. One of the few real big men that we're talking about. Plus, he's a stretch 5. You add Anthony Edwards to that picture, and this team has got a ton of potential.
Russell played terribly too the last game. I expect a big bounce back from him here in this one.
Exactly. So moving on to the last game, Blazers against the Clippers. I would not bet this with your money, Jordan. And the reason I would not bet this with your money is because the Blazers have always been a bad defensive team during the Damian Lillard era. Not to blame Damian Lillard, but he's not a great defender himself, so it's not like he's setting the tone. They look worse. They legitimately look like they're worse on defense than they were before, and that's hard to imagine. The Clippers are supposedly a defensive team. There is absolutely no evidence of that right now. But I will say, though, that I do have more belief in the Clippers than I do the Blazers for a couple of reasons. For one, The Clippers look like they have some semblance of what they want to do. It's just the execution is kind of failing them. For example, in that first game against Golden State went bananas in that first half, scored like almost 70 points. And then the Clippers still stormed back and came and cut it down. They have continuity with Ty Lue. Their pieces fit. Most of the guys are back. They don't have too many moving parts. I like the Clippers here in this spot. The Blazers, they don't seem to be taking to Chauncey Billups' offense because it seems like they basically abandoned the Terry Stotts philosophy, and now you're basically teaching old dogs new tricks. I don't love it. It's Clippers or nothing for me. What you got?
Yeah, I'm staying away from this one as well. Short spread. Couple of teams I don't quite know what you're getting from day to day. I mean, like the Blazers smacking up Phoenix over the weekend is obviously, a little bit more of a bringing into their favor. But I think that plays into LA's hands tonight. You're right. I think if I had to make a pick, it would probably have to be on the Clippers just because I think they're the deeper team. I think they're the better team. And we talked about this before with the Blazers. they're going to reach an inflection point one way or the other this season, I think. I don't see them being anywhere. I don't see them being a top 6 team in the Western Conference this year. That's mostly due to the Western Conference being so good. And I think if you're the Blazers, like, is making the play-in tournament and, maybe getting, shellacked by whoever gets the first or second seed in the Western Conference going to be a worthwhile season for you? Probably not. That's why you see Damian Lillard getting asked like literally every other day about what he thinks of his future with this franchise. Granted, I think he's answered all the questions correctly, and I think that for the Blazers' perspective, like you have him and McCollum and your guy Norm Powell locked up long term, but wouldn't be surprised to see them go on a little mini tank later this year and just kind of like sell off a few pieces, get right, and with that in mind, that kind of in the back of their mind. Whereas the Clippers are kind of like, we just got to hold serve until we get Kawhi back, and we're a championship contender. Like they're looking at this season completely differently. Whereas the Blazers are kind of like, if we start effing up, this team's going to get kind of broken apart a little bit, and that's tough. That's tough to play like that, especially when you got a tough beginning of their season. I mean, they got Clippers, Memphis, the Clippers again, then they got to go at Charlotte, at Philly. Their next 5 games, like that's tough. It's not going to take much to slip up in the Western Conference, and I feel like this is the type of game that they got to win if they're going to want to get into that top 6 seed. It's got to be games like this on the road where you're not favored to win. And I just don't think they have the ability to do it because you said can't trust the defense right now. They really have Robert Covington as really their only main like real good defender. And Norm Powell is good too. I guess you say they have 2, but other than those 2, it's tough for them to stop guys. And I think the Clippers, with their diversity on the wing and at the guard position, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to slow them down at home.
Yeah, the Blazers' big man's name is escaping me right now. I'm sorry.
Dirk Alert.
Listen, he's going to have a hard time staying on the floor. The Clippers are going to play small ball. They're going to play Morris at the 5. They're going to start Zubac, but Zubac only plays like 15, 18, 20 minutes a game. They're going to play Morris the rest of those minutes, which means that he's not going to be able to get on the court for Portland. And again, he's their one reliable rebounder / I'm not going to say / defender, but at least he gets on the boards because sometimes he's pretty lazy himself. But that's a whole other conversation. I think this Portland team sucks. I've been saying this for years. They're so overrated because of Dame Lillard. And don't even let me get on a Dame Lillard rant because even though I love Dame Lillard to death, especially because he's not a guy who's gone and jumped ship with the superstar era, I'm not sure he's top 75 over Kyrie, but that's a whole other conversation. I will say this, though. The clock's ticking, Dame. You're in your 30s now. Yeah. I get it. You're loyal. You like to go Dame time? Well, guess what time it is, Dame? Father time. He's knocking at your door. And if you don't go to a team that is going to build a championship contender around you, you are wasting your time. No one gives a shit that you were loyal to Portland at all. Like, I'm sorry. It was cute in the beginning. You and CJ McCollum are not a winning combination. You guys are not a winning combination unless you have a big that's going to be a third piece that complements you two, which you don't. So that's all I got to say about that. I have no look on this game. Guys, you want to bring up our picks so we can wrap this up?
Yeah, let's get this going real quick because we're a little over here. First one we didn't talk about for me, I got Michael Porter Jr. over 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists in this one. He's kind of had a little slow start to the season, but you know what cures slow starts, JB? The Cleveland Cavaliers. And 10-point favorites, I believe, for the Nuggets tonight. I think a lot of that is Michael Porter Jr. going to have a nice little breakout game, get off the funk a little bit. I know you're a huge fan, so I'm preaching to the choir in this one, but he could I think go over 24.5 with just points and rebounds tonight. I think he's giving me assists too. I think it's just a little too much for me to pass up on. Got that at minus 125, and then give me the Wolves. Give me the Timberwolves. I'm a believer, baby. Let's go. Minus 2.5 first half.
All I gotta say about that is I can't get off the show fast enough to make that Michael Porter Jr. bet with you. The Cavaliers start Lauri Markkanen at the 3.
Yeah, that's why. Basically the entirety of the reason. Like no chance tonight. Goodbye, Lauri. You're not even a good defender, let alone against a guy that you're mismatched against. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean Michael Porter Jr. must be like he can't wait for this game to start. In terms of my picks, I've got the Hornets money line. I think they're being a little bit disrespected at home against a possibly shorthanded Celtics playing in a back-to-back, and I got the Bulls minus 1.5 short line against the Raptors. I feel like this line is almost disrespectful to the Bulls. I can't possibly say that after all talking all this trash about their fans being gassed, but they just seem like the better team to me, especially with this Raptors small ball nonsense, which is what it is to me. I get why they're doing it. They're kind of their hands being forced because of their roster, but if the Bulls go small against the Raptors small lineup, I can only see the Bulls winning that game. But that's it for us today. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same channel with more picks. Thank you for joining us. Please hit the like button. Also, make sure you go to bookmakerreview.com. Check out my articles, Jordan's articles, and all of our cappers who will give you great insight on whatever sport you're trying to cash in on. Same time tomorrow, 12:30. We appreciate y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe. We out.